Once my grandmother's village pulsed with the rhythm of festival drums, not hymns. The air would come alive with the heartbeat of the land, echoing through every hut and field. Children would dance barefoot in the dust, their laughter mingling with the music, while elders told stories by firelight, passing on wisdom through song and rhythm. The gods lived in the Iroko tree, the river, the earth, woven into daily life through proverbs and rituals. Every morning, offerings were made, and every season marked with ceremonies that honored the spirits believed to dwell in every stone and stream. These beliefs shaped the way people saw the world and their place within it. Now 1,000 voices rise from a Pentecostal church, singing to a distant Savior beneath stained glass. The old songs are replaced by hymns, and the language of worship has changed. The church is filled with hope and longing, echoing with prayers for miracles and new beginnings. The pastor preaches prosperity, his words amplified, promising salvation and a better life. His message travels far beyond the walls, reaching hearts hungry for change, for a future brighter than the past. This is more than a change in sound. It's a shift in the continent's spiritual soul. Old and new beliefs now stand side by side, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in quiet conflict, shaping the identity of a changing Africa. The old ways rooted in land and lineage fade like the echoes of a distant drum. The silence grows, and with it a sense of loss that lingers in the hearts of those who remember. Across Africa, new faiths bring both gain and loss, each church or mosque a story of tradition left behind. For every new beginning there is something quietly ending, a memory slipping away. Shrines go untended, festivals forgotten, proverbs lost to the young. The wisdom of ancestors is at risk of vanishing, replaced by new dreams and distant influences. This is the story of Africa's gods in exile, and the question, what happens when a people's gods are told to leave? In the quiet spaces left behind, echoes linger, waiting to be remembered or finally forgotten. The building of new altars in Africa began with ships from Europe, missionaries bringing education, medicine, and a new god. These early arrivals were often greeted with curiosity and caution, their presence marking the start of a profound transformation. They came not only to preach, but to reshape societies, introducing unfamiliar customs and beliefs to ancient lands. Schools and hospitals offered progress, but at the price of abandoning traditional beliefs. For many, the promise of literacy and healing was irresistible, even as it meant letting go of ancestral ways. The new institutions became gateways to a different world, one where old certainties were questioned. Islam, too, arrived with traders offering brotherhood and a global identity, spreading through commerce and scholarship. The faith's message traveled along trade routes, carried by merchants and scholars who brought not just goods, but new ideas and connections to distant lands. Both faiths introduced a single, all-powerful God, replacing diverse local deities. The shift was dramatic. Rituals and stories that had shaped communities for generations were now challenged by new doctrines and sacred texts. Conversion was often persuasive, not forceful, modernity and power in exchange for old ways. Missionaries and traders negotiated with chiefs and elders, offering alliances and opportunities that promised a place in a changing world. Leaders who converted brought entire communities with them, shifting spiritual allegiances region by region. The decision of a single chief could alter the destiny of thousands, as faith became a marker of loyalty and progress. Churches, mosques, and schools became new community centers, overshadowing sacred groves and village squares. These buildings were more than places of worship. They were symbols of a new era, gathering people under new banners. Foreign funding built grand cathedrals and mosques, symbols of permanence and power. Their towering spires and domes stood as reminders of distant patrons and the global reach of faith. The old altars, simple, natural, intimate, could not compete with this grandeur. Slowly, the sacred spaces of the past faded, their stories remembered by only a few. Slowly, the continent's spiritual geography was redrawn, one new altar at a time. The landscape itself became a testament to change as new faiths took root and flourished. The transformation was profound, reshaping identity and belonging. Across generations, Africans navigated the tension between heritage and hope, forging new paths in a world forever altered by the arrival of new altars. The old gods didn't vanish overnight. They faded quietly, as rituals lost meaning and stories went untold. Their presence, once woven into every aspect of daily life, slowly slipped into silence. The sacred songs that once echoed through the villages grew softer until only a few remembered the words. Festivals like the New Yam became mere cultural displays, stripped of spiritual heart. What was once a living connection to the divine became performance for the crowd, a spectacle for tourists and cameras, rather than a communion with ancestors and spirits. By the 1900s, less than 10% of Africans were Christian. Now, it's nearly half. The old faiths, once dominant, were gradually replaced as churches multiplied and missionaries spread new beliefs across the continent. Young people know the disciples of Jesus, but not their ancestral deities. In schools and churches, they learn new stories, while the names of their own gods fade from memory, rarely spoken or celebrated. Mama Adunni, once a revered priestess, now sits alone, her knowledge dying with her. The wisdom she carries, passed down through generations, finds no eager ears to receive it, no apprentices to inherit her sacred role. The old ways carried more than faith. They held medicine, law, history, and art. They were the foundation of community, shaping how people healed, governed, remembered, and created. Losing them means losing a map to the past. As the spiritual framework crumbled, so did the vessels of this knowledge. Shrines fell into ruin, sacred objects were forgotten, and the rituals that once bound people together faded into obscurity. What's lost is not just belief, but a uniquely African way of understanding the world. The gods shaped how people saw nature, family, and fate, offering meaning that cannot be replaced by imported faiths alone. The gods retreat into folklore, their wisdom slipping away with each passing generation. Their stories, once living truths, now survive only in fading tales told by elders, or in the cracked paint of forgotten murals. The exile of the gods is the exile of memory itself. When the last stories are forgotten and the last shrines crumble, a piece of the continent's soul disappears into the silence. The new faiths brought more than new gods. They brought new fears, sin, salvation, heaven, and hell. Traditional afterlife was a cycle, not eternal punishment. Now, hell looms, creating spiritual anxiety. Old beliefs became stigmatized. Juju dismissed as witchcraft, elders' wisdom seen as dangerous. Families divided, children ashamed of ancestral practices, elders isolated. Authority shifted from councils of elders to pastors and imams, fracturing community bonds. The new religious leaders became arbiters of morality, often at odds with local customs. Many now live in two worlds, publicly devout, privately consulting traditional diviners in crisis. The soul is divided, caught between ancestral whispers and imported creeds. This internal conflict shapes African identity, a silent negotiation between past and present. The weight of a new heaven is the burden of a divided self. Today's spiritual landscape is shaped by powerful pastors and imams, celebrity leaders commanding megachurches and vast followings. Prosperity gospel promises wealth, churches and mosques operate as businesses, blurring faith and commerce. Foreign funding from the US and Gulf states fuels expansion, often pushing rigid interpretations. Religious leaders wield political power, influencing elections and policy. Some advocate for justice, others exploit followers for personal gain. Faith is commercialized, miracle products, paid consultations, and entrance fees abound. Critics see exploitation, but millions find hope and community in these new temples. The business of faith is everywhere, shaping culture and politics. For many, these leaders are genuine conduits of divine power in a world of hardship. The architects of modern faith have redefined what it means to believe. Amid the dominance of new religions, a quiet revival stirs. The old gods are speaking again. Young Africans, scholars, artists, activists, reclaim ancestral traditions with pride, not shame. Universities document oral histories, challenge colonial narratives, and reveal the depth of indigenous philosophies. Legal battles seek recognition for traditional religions, demanding equal rights and protections. Artists and musicians weave ancestral myths and rhythms into modern works, making the old ways relevant. This is not nostalgia, but a synthesis, modernity rooted in heritage. True liberation, they argue, is spiritual as well as political. Decolonizing the mind means embracing suppressed traditions, not rejecting progress. The gods in exile may yet return, not to replace but to stand alongside the new faiths. The revival is a sign. Africa's spiritual story is still being written. The internet is the new village square. Social media, the digital shrine. Young healers and priestesses reach global audiences, sharing ancient wisdom through pixels and hashtags. Diaspora and local youth connect, learning about ancestral cosmologies and rituals online. These digital communities transcend borders, creating a Pan-African network of seekers. Knowledge once guarded by elders is now accessible to anyone with a smartphone. Risks remain: commercialization, simplification, and questions of authenticity. Yet, the digital griot ensures the old gods' voices are heard in high definition. African spirituality adapts, evolving with technology, meeting a deep hunger for authentic identity. The stories of the gods are no longer whispers, they're broadcast to a new generation. Young Africans stand at a spiritual crossroads, educated, connected, yet often disconnected from heritage. Their names may be traditional, but their values shaped by church or mosque. The old ways seem distant, pressured by the need to conform to modern faiths. Yet curiosity grows. Many quietly seek meaning in ancestral roots. Contradictions abound. Preachers of humility living in luxury lost community bonds. This generation must decide what to carry forward and what to leave behind. They blend traditions, wearing crosses and beads, praying in mosques and attending cultural festivals. They are forging new identities, neither wholly traditional nor modern. The challenge to negotiate peace between old gods and new, creating a path uniquely African. The future of Africa's soul rests in their hands. The spiritual revolution in Africa is unfinished. New faiths are entrenched, but ancient wisdom stirs. The question is not if the new will endure, but how it will evolve alongside the old. Can Africans blend Christian or Muslim devotion with ancestral reverence? Can traditional ecological wisdom guide a continent facing climate change and division? These are questions of survival, not just theology. Remembering the past is about recovering roots, not rejecting progress. The revival of African spirituality is self-recovery, not rebellion. The next chapter will be written by the young, by leaders who value both heritage and change. The gods' echoes remain, waiting to be called home. The future may yet see a soul not divided but whole.